Great day, y'all. So we're back again with another quick haircut tutorial. In this video, I'm gonna show you how I break down the fading process to a very simple formula that you can easily get your fades done in under 30 minutes. The reason why I wanna show you this because I think it's crucial. If you're gonna make money, you're gonna have to save time on your services. The more time you have, the more services you can complete, ultimately will make you a ton more when it comes to revenue. So I'm gonna give you this simple formula on a very common haircut that normally comes through the barbershop on a regular. And the reason why this is so important is because this is gonna help you simplify your fading process so you can master it and become more efficient overall. So I ain't gonna say anything else, let's get to it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is open this blade all the way up. Now, I don't have a guard on here, right? So this is gonna be about equivalent as a measurement to 1/16, right? Now on top would be 2/8, which will also be 4/16. So I'm gonna teach you real quick in fraction formula how to separate your fading levels so you can transition from one level down to the next. The first part of that, the medium fade is gonna be right at the point right here of the sideburn, right? So medium would be here, high would be above that, low would be below that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna take this first guideline, right? Which is setting my foundation. I'm gonna take that all the way around. And as you can see with these wall vapor clippers, the power on them and the ability to cut, it cuts smooth. The reason why this is so important is because I don't have to go in and do a whole lot of cleanup work. It's really just lay it on there one time and go. This is gonna help you, this formula, right? This 1/16 is the first thing we did here, right? Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a 1.5 guard. I'm gonna take this 1.5 guard. If you look closely at this guard, the measurement says 3/16, right? So if this with no guard is 1/16, and this is 3/16, we've effectively skipped 1/8 of an inch in measurement. So each level should always skip 1/8 of a fraction in measurement from one level to the next. As I'm going through here, I'm building about a comb's width or what I call a finger length, right, of space in between each level. Now, another thing to keep in mind is head shape. This is where they make major mistakes, right? Number one, they don't leave enough space, right? Like a finger length. But they also, when it comes to the clippers, they ride the heel, right? So if I were to turn this to the side so you can see, right? They ride this heel up. But if you notice, I can put my comb behind these teeth. So that causes an issue because as they're doing that, they're not really cutting to the true length. You also want to look at another part when you're cutting, and this is why feel matters. You want to make sure the teeth on the guard are pressed flush to the head. You see how I'm moving the skin a little bit? That's how you know you're all the way there, but you want to keep in mind, the white part is what actually cuts the hair. So there's 4 phases to when you're fading, right? The first one is knowing what you're doing, right? That's the part of me telling you 1/16, now we got 3/16, right? Knowing the measurements of guards. The second part is seeing what you're doing. I can see where I'm cutting this hair because I can see it enter into the teeth and cut, right? And I can see how much space I have between the first guideline and the second guideline, right? So know what you're doing, see what you're doing. Now you need to get into that phase of feeling what you're doing, knowing that you got the clipper all the way pressed flush to the scalp, right? And then after you know what you're doing, see what you're doing, feel what you're doing, you hear it. And that's where you can hear that hair coming off. So as I'm cutting, you hear the hair coming off. Now, I'm gonna take the 2, right? I need to know my top floor. We know his top floor is a 2 guard, which is 2/8 of an inch, right? Which is also 4/16, right? Which is also 2/8 if you just divide by 2, right? So we went from 1/16 up to 4/16. That's how many levels we're going. So that's why we have our space. Now we're gonna cut the top down and then we're gonna blend this out and it'll pretty much be done. All right, so I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna cut this all the way through. Making sure, once again, that I'm laid flush to the scalp. Because if I'm just surfing, it's gonna cut less hair. Now I'll show you what that looks like, right? So we're cutting here We can come up here. Now, what happens is, if I'm not laid all the way to the scalp, I end up doing this. You can look, if I'm laying on the heel here, I end up doing this, surfing through the hair. So some of it's cutting and some of it's not, right? And that leaves your haircut choppy. That's what a lot of people do. They make that mistake and they think they're cutting right. What you need is these down here need to be laid flush to it. The reason why when you're cutting permanent lengths, you always keep the guard closed because it's gonna cut more strands per cycle. So when I say per cycle, if you look at this clipper and it's closed, right? The teeth are closed, it's gonna give you the truest cut. But when I turn it on, that moving blades moves like this, it cuts more hair strands per cycle. When I say cycle, that means back and forth. If I open it, it's a lot more space in there. It's not gonna cut as many strands. So you only open the guard and halfway closing the stuff when you're fading. When you're cutting permanent lengths, it should always be closed. That's a principle, you can take that with you. So what that does is here, I come through here and you see how I'm laid all the way flush. It's gonna cut it even for me. Now we have the top complete, right? The 1.5, we took it down. So we still have this line right here. Now, for a beginner, this is where most people struggle. They're like, how do I get this line out? And I'm gonna teach you some very key things that I see beginners make a mistake with all of the time, right? So we're gonna take this one guard, right? Because the 1 is 1/8. And remember, we had this 1.5 that I showed you prior to, which was 3/16. Now, just below 3/16, if we take 1/16 in measurement away, we're gonna go with 1/8. Now, what I first need to do with this line here is I need to reduce it before I remove it, right? So everybody wants to remove the line in the fade, but you first have to reduce it before you remove it. How I'm gonna reduce it is I'm gonna open this lever up now because I'm in the blending process. I'm gonna open it up all the way. So if you think about guards in terms of money, if I have this 1/8 and I call everything that's an eighth a $1, and I call everything that's a 16th $0.50. So if I have 3/16, half of the 3 is 1.5, which is also known as 1.5. If I have a 1/8, then that's $1. So this is exactly below. If 3/16 is $1.50 and 1/8 is $1, I'm gonna open this up halfway to all the way till it puts me right back in that $1.50 zone, if I converted these measurements to money. So I have this all the way open. I'm gonna go up past it until I hear that hair. Remember I talked about those phases, right? Know what you're doing, see what you're doing, feel what you're doing, hear what you're doing, right? So I go up until I hear the hair, and then I flick my clippers out of there. So now it's halfway with this one. I go up to it till I hear the hair, and I gotta go past it now. The problem most beginners do is they go up to the line, get scared, and come off. That's why they have a bowl all the way around, right? And they never have a fade. So since I'm halfway and I know the 1.5 is this zone up here, I can go up to it with a 1 halfway open. And I'm done. Now, if you look at this, this looks pretty much faded versus this, yes or no? The answer to that would be yes, but is it done? Absolutely not, because you have to always go back to what you put it in with. If you remember to the beginning of this video, I put this in with this all the way open. So now I have to take the corners of my blade and fade this last little piece, right, out of there. Because ultimately what you put it in with is what you're gonna remove it with. Everything else is reducing. So you're gonna reduce before you remove. The key here I want you to look at is this hair goes this way. It goes horizontal. So I need to go the opposite way horizontally to make sure I'm cutting that hair evenly. If I go up like this, I'm gonna cross cut. It's gonna make my fade look real spotty because I'm cutting across the grain instead of against the grain. Now you done seen me do a whole fade really quickly with a simple process. that even a beginner can learn. All right, y'all. So that was a quick video on how to create a clean, crisp fade really quickly. But there's another part to that. What I want you to really get down is how to do this lineup. So I created another tutorial. If you watch this next video, it'll show you exactly how to do that.